Hello everybody, it's Paul Neeson with Torah Life Ministries, and we are reading the Torah portion for this coming Shabbat. We are up to the 41st reading in this year's Torah cycle, and the one we'll be reading today is Numbers 25:10 to 31. Now, if you're not familiar with the Torah portion, some people actually ask me where they can get the Torah. Well, it's the first 5 books of the Bible, and it is the foundation of all Scripture. The Bible starts in Genesis, which in Hebrew means Bereshit, which is beginning. And that's where it starts, and that's the foundation that Yeshua HaMashiach spoke out of and taught out of and quoted very often. And that was the Scriptures. When Timothy said all Scripture is profitable for man, there was no such thing as the renewed covenant, or as some people might call it, the new covenant. It was Torah they were talking about. That is the foundation. So each week we are going to read a certain Torah portion or a part of the Torah, getting through these first 5 books of the Bible, and we are up to the 41st reading, which is the book of Numbers, and then we're going to be following up shortly with the book of Deuteronomy. But get your Bibles out right now, and we'll continue reading Numbers 25:10 to 31. Now, before we get into this, I just want to recap what happened at the end of the last Torah portion number 40. We saw the children of Israel started to fornicate with the women of Moab in the wilderness, and they started to make sacrifice and offering to those gods. And it took this man Phineas the courage and the righteousness to go and take a sword and take it right through this leader, or this so-called high person in Israel, taking a Moab women in front of the tent, in front of the whole community. He destroyed that evil root, and that's where we left off. So we're going to continue now in Numbers 25:10, and it says, "And Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, Phineas," and that was the man who took that sword, "the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, has turned my wrath away from the sons of Israel, while he was zealous for my sake among them, so that I did not consume the sons of Israel in my jealousy." Well, we have to focus on zealous for my sake. And we are called to be zealous for our Creator. Bottom line. And does that mean we are to go kill other people that are disobedient? Not necessarily. There's an order and a process that should happen, and we should listen to the process of the Scriptures. But in this case here, where the whole community was starting to fall apart, it took the zealousness and righteousness of this man Phineas to destroy that evil root and put it apart. So we're going to continue here and see actually who these people were and move on. Now remember, last week we spoke about Balaam and Balak, where Balak asked Balaam to curse the children of Israel, and refused to do that because Yah told Balaam to tell Balak, "No, Yah has spoken, I'm not going to do that." But it appears he did curse the children of Israel, because he told Balak, "This is what you can do. You can have the children, the daughters of Moab, mingle and fornicate with the sons of Israel, and that will cause them to bow before other gods, bringing this plague amongst the people." And that's what happened. So, continuing here, it says in verse 12, "Therefore, behold, I give to him my covenant of peace." So, Phineas was rewarded for his zealousness and his righteousness. And we are rewarded and blessed for being obedient, but going over and beyond that obedient. It says, "I give him my covenant of peace, and it shall be to him and to his seed after him the covenant of an everlasting priesthood, because he was zealous for Elohim and atoned for the sons of Israel." So he went over and beyond just being righteous, and he did this courageous, zealous act. Now, there are some people, especially the Orthodox community, will say the person that was righteous in this situation was this fellow Zemerai, who was the man who took the woman of Moab into the tent in front of everyone, because he knew that Phineas was going to stand up and create this act, and in front of all of Israel they could put an end to this plague. I don't agree at all. I see here exactly Phineas being a righteous one, not this man, this Zemerai, who actually could cause the plague to continue. But we continue, it says, "And the name of the man in Israel who was smitten when he was struck by Phineas of the women of Midian was Zemerai, the son of Salu, ruler of the father's house of the Simonites." So he was part of the line of Simon, or the Simonites. "And the name of the woman who was struck, the woman of Midian, was Cosbi, the daughter of Zur, and he was head of the people of the father's house of Midian. And Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, Vex the Midianites, you shall strike them, for they are vexers to you. because of the wales of which they have beguiled you in the matter of Peor, and in the matter of Cosbi, the daughter of a ruler of Midian, their sister, who was struck in the day of the plague, because the matter of Peor. So it was Phineas putting an end to this plague. And again, the plague is one of the three common consequences of being disobedient, which all ended in curses, but one of the common, and I'll say it again and I say it often, is being cut off from the community. Another one is a plague, and then finally death. These are three common causes of being disobedient to our Creator. Chapter 26. And it happened after the plague, so after this situation that just happened, our Creator spoke to Moses and to Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest. Remember, Aaron deceased or went up to the mountain, and he died. That was a couple of Torah portions ago. So now you see Eleazar. He's now the high priest amongst the people. So after the plague, Yahweh spoke to Moses and to Eleazar. So he spoke to both of them. Lift up the heads of all the congregation of the sons of Israel, from a son of 20 years upward, throughout their father's house, all that are able to go to war in the house. Now these 20 years and upward people, now you're starting to get the people that are going to go into the promised land. Because everyone prior to that came out of Egypt, except, as we'll see, Caleb and Joshua, are not going to get into the promised land for all the things they've done, for the rebellion, for their complaining, and for the false spies. The spies gave a false report. For all of these reasons, they that came out of Egypt, that were taking a census when they came out, are not going into the promised land. And that includes Aaron and Moses, which we're going to see Moses is going to not make it either. But we do see these children now that were 20 years and older, and we start seeing them. They are to go to war for Israel. So now it's starting to be distinguished who's going to go to war, why, how, and so on. And Moses and Eleazar the priest spoke with them in the plains of Moab, besides the Jordan and Jericho, saying, Count from a son of 20 years and upward, as Yahweh commanded Moses and the sons of Israel, who went forth out of the land of Egypt. And now from verse 5 all the way to verse 50 of chapter 26, they're going to get exactly who these are. I'll give you an example. We'll look at verse 5. It says, Reuben, the firstborn of Israel, the sons of Reuben, and that would be Hanak, the family of the Hanakites, and Palu, the family of the Palulites. And then it goes on and goes into each person or each tribe that they're going to be counted, and so on, and each person. So that goes all the way to chapter 50. And then in chapter 50 it says, 51 it says, These were the numbered ones of the sons of Israel, 601,730. Now these are just the sons of Israel. Of course you have the families with them as well, but still the number is diminishing. It's not rising the way it did when they were in Egypt, when they were righteous, or when they were humbled because they were being in slavery. But now the numbers keep diminishing here in the desert, and it was because of their disobedience or their rebellion to our Creator. So 52, and Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, The land shall be divided to these for an inheritance according to the number of names. And they just went over the names. To many of you shall increase their inheritance, and to the few you shall diminish your inheritance. Each according to the mouth of his numbered ones shall be given an inheritance. Now, an inheritance here is based on the size of your family. It says clearly in the scriptures, be fruitful and multiply. Children are a blessing, at least during the scriptural times. That's how they were looked, even by our Creator, who said those with the bigger amount of people, the most people, will get the biggest lot when they go in and take their portion of the land. And those with the small will be smaller. Now our Creator is going to open up the wombs and bless people, and one of those blessings is having many children. And now we see one of the consequences, which are good consequences, is they will get the more land of inheritance. But the land shall be divided by lot, and they shall inherit according to the names of the tribes of their fathers. By the mouth of the lot, possession of it shall be divided between many and few. And these are the numbered ones of the Levites, by their families of Gershon, the family of the Gershonites, and Kohath, the family of the Kohathites, and Mari, the family of the Maronites. Now, if that sounds familiar, when we looked at the tabernacle being built and the pieces of the tabernacle being moved, these were the families that were doing it, because these are the Levites, and these were the ones, the priests of the time, and the ones that were doing the moving of the tabernacle, but these were the ones that weren't allotted a plot of land, as we're going to see. 58. These are the families of the Levites, the families of the Levinites, the families of the Herbonites, the families of the Melanites, and the family of the Mershonites, and the family of the Korathites. And Kohath fathered Amram. And the name of Amram's wife was Jochebed, the daughter of Levi, who was born to Levi in Egypt. And she bore Aaron and Moses to Amram and their sister Miriam. And Nadab and Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar were born to Aaron. And Nadab and Abihu died, bringing strange fire before Yahweh. And we saw that in a previous Torah portion, how two of Aaron's sons brought a strange fire to our Creator, going against his instructions, and they were put to death. And their numbered ones were 23,000, all males, a son of a month and upward, for they were not counted among the sons of Israel, because there was no possession given to them among the sons of Israel. These are those numbered by Moses and Eleazar the priest, who numbered the sons of Israel in the plains of Moab, besides the Jordan near Jericho. And among these was not a man of those numbered by Moses and Aaron the priest, who numbered the sons of Israel in the wilderness of Sinai. For Yahweh had said to them, they shall surely die in the wilderness, and not a man of them should be left, except Caleb the son of Jephunneh and Joshua the son of Nun. So all the children in this census 20 and over were not going to be going in the promised land, but the children under 20 and older who were born in the wilderness, they will be going in the land. And this was a punishment for their rebellion and for their false spies report and their complaining and mumbling. And Joshua and Caleb were the only two righteous ones that didn't do that or take part of that. And it was them two that are going to lead the children across the Jordan into the promised land, as we'll see. In chapter 27, the daughters of Zebulun, the son of Hera, the son of Galad, the son of Malchar, the son of Manasseh, of the family of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, came. And these are his daughters' names: Mahlah, Noah, Hoglah, Malchah, and Tisra. Now, people often ask me, and it's getting off the subject a little, but we have a daughter, and we didn't know we were going to have a daughter, and we were looking for a name, and my wife heard Yah say the name's going to be Noah. So my wife woke up in the morning and said, we're going to have a son named Noah. And I said, well, there's a girl in the scriptures named Noah as well, and whatever we have, we would decide to name it Noah. We'll just spell it different if it's a boy or girl. Well, we did have a girl, and we named her Noah. And it's a very common name in Israel. And here we see one of the daughters of Zebulun named as Noah. And so that's where we got the name. People say it's kind of strange in the United States to have a woman named Noah, but it's very common in Israel, and it was even common during biblical times, as we saw here. Anyway, you have these daughters of this fellow Zebulun, and he didn't have any sons, and they didn't have brothers. So they come to Moses. Should our father's name be wiped out? Because we don't have anyone to give the inheritance to. So they say, give it to us as the daughters of a father to carry on his name. And it was a thing about an ordinary, because Yahweh just gave the instructions. Well, when they came here, it says in verse 2 of chapter 27, and they stood before Moses and Eleazar the priest, and before the rulers of all the congregation at the door of the tent of meeting, saying, our father died in the wilderness, and he was not among the company who met together against Yahweh in the company of Korah, but he died in his own sins and had no son. So he wasn't part of the community that went on Korah's side, and we saw that in a couple of Torah portions ago, how this fellow led all the Israelites, or many of the Israelites, against Moses and Yahweh, and Korah was consumed. But it says he didn't follow him. He died in his own sins, but it wasn't that sin. But they go on to say, why is our father's name taken away from the midst of his family? Because there is no son to him. Give us our inheritance among our fathers and brothers. Now Moses didn't know what to answer here. He didn't know, and he didn't try to answer something he didn't know, which is a great lesson. What Moses did do was he took it before Yahweh. It says in verse 5, and Moses brought their case before Yahweh. And Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, the daughters of Zebulun speak rightly. You shall give them a possession in inheritance among their father's brothers, and you shall cause their family's inheritance to pass on to them. And you shall speak to the sons of Israel, saying. So now Moses goes to Yahweh, and Yahweh agrees that is the right thing to do. And then he goes on to give Moses more instructions, so more questions don't come up that Moses doesn't have the answer to, in terms of of inheritance and so on. And now Yah gives the instructions. And you shall speak to the sons of Israel, saying, when a man dies and he has no son, then you shall pass on his inheritance to his daughters. So it wasn't just those daughters that had something special. All the daughters that there was no sons in the family, it would be passed on to them. And that was the instructions that were given. But it goes even beyond that if there's any other situation that Moses yet didn't have the answer to. And if he has no daughter, then you shall give the inheritance to the brothers. And if he has no brothers, then you shall give his possession to his father's brothers. And if his father has no brothers, then you shall give the inheritance to his nearest relative of his family. And he shall own it, and it shall be a statute of judgment of the sons of Israel, as Yahweh has commanded Moses. So Yah gave these instructions and said this is the way it is supposed to be. So he told Moses, give these instructions out. Make sure that people understand about the inheritance of the land when they go and take the land, when they go into the promised land. And that's it. Now there's a little switch in the way it's going. After Yah gives those instructions to Moses to give to the people, now something new happens here. We see in verse 12. And Yahweh said to Moses, get up into this mountain of Abraham and see the land which I have given to the sons of Israel. So now he tells Moses to get up to this mountain and see this land. Verse 13. And when you have seen it, you also shall be gathered to your people as your brother Aaron was gathered. So now here is the death sentence of Moses. The end of Moses, who survived the Pharaoh and the Egyptians and all the hard things that happened in the wilderness. He's told to give these instructions of inheritance to the people. Go up to the mountain and look at the promised land. But then he's told you won't get to go there because of, and we're going to see why, but he basically says, here's the land, and then you will be gathered to your people, the way Aaron was gathered. So it says in verse 14, for you rebelled against my mouth in the desert of Zin, and the strife of the congregation to sanctify me at the waters before their eyes. They were the waters of strife in Kadesh, in the desert of Zin. And that was when Moses hit the rock, not even once, but twice, instead of just speaking to the rock. And that's the waters of strife. And that here, according to our Creator, is the reason, and that is the reason why Moses is not going into the promised land. You know, and now here's Moses' heart, and this is what that type of person Moses was. Moses said, you know, or had the idea, if I'm not going to go, at least choose a righteous leader to lead the people. And in verse 15, Moses spoke to Yahweh, saying, let Yahweh, the Elohim of the spirits of the flesh, appoint a man over the congregation. Now, before we look at this, remember when Moses was first told, when Yahweh first appeared to him near the burning bush, that you will be sent into Egypt, and you will be the one that's going to go and represent me. And Moses said no, he didn't accept it. Send somebody else, he said more than once. And then finally he accepted. Well, he had all these years to humble himself and to listen to our Creator. And our Creator basically tells him here in verse 14 that is the end. This is going to be the end of his life. And he could have easily asked Yah to expand his life so he gets into the promised land and gets to see it or step on that ground. I mean, there's many times he interceded for the people so they wouldn't be put to death. And he could have did that for himself. I'm not saying Yah would have agreed with him, but he didn't even attempt to do that. What he says here in verse 16, it says, Moses spoke to Yahweh, saying, let Yahweh the Elohim of the spirits of all flesh, so he's appointing who he is, and everyone knows who he is, but he's showing his humbleness and showing, I know who you are, appoint a man over the congregation, who may go out before them, and who may go in before them, and who may lead them out, and who may bring them in, so that the congregation of Yahweh may not be a sheep to whom there is no shepherd, meaning sheep just wandering wild in the desert. Choose a leader, since I'm the leader that at least the people remaining are looking upon. If I'm gone, I don't want them to just wander like sheep. Choose one. And Yahweh said to Moses, take Joshua, the son of Nun, a man whom is a spirit, and lay your hands on him. Now, so here we see Yah chose Joshua as the man to lead the children into Israel. And in verse 19, and cause him to stand before Eleazar the priest and before all the congregation and give him a charge before their eyes. Now, we saw Moses and Aaron were the ones to lead the children out of Egypt into the wilderness. And we see it's going to be Joshua and Eleazar, two of the ones that are going to be leading the children into the promised land, of course, with Caleb. And you shall put from your dignity on him, so that all the congregation of the sons of Israel will listen. And he shall stand before Eleazar the priest, who shall ask for him according to the judgment of the Urim before Yahweh. At his mouth they shall go out, and at his mouth they shall come in, and he and all the sons of Israel with him, even all the congregation. So again, not only Israel, but everyone, the whole assembly with them. For any of you out there that think that the Torah was only given to Israel, well, no, it was given to the whole community with Israel. Anyone who decides to follow Yeshua as Messiah and use Torah as their foundation of life must use Torah as the foundation of their life. And that's the instructions of our Creator. It's for all of Israel. It wasn't for just one people. And Moses did as Yahweh has commanded him, and he took Joshua and made him stand before Eleazar the priest and before all the congregation. And he laid his hands on him and gave him a charge, even as Yahweh commanded by the hand of Moses. So now Moses was anointing Joshua to lead the children, and that was the end of chapter 27. And we start to see the preparation. First they had the instructions of the inheritance of the land, and then they had the anointing of Joshua, and Moses is going to decease. It talks about that. And we're starting to get into the recap, and we'll be up to the book of Deuteronomy soon, which is going to recap everything that has happened before Moses finally taken away, and then we're going to see the children go in, and we'll be into the book of Joshua, which technically is the original covenant and an important book of history, but not part of the first 5 books of the Torah, which starts in Genesis and then goes all the way through to Deuteronomy. So chapter 28, and Yahweh said to Moses, saying, command the sons of Israel, you shall say to them, my offering, my bread for my fire offerings, my soothing fragrance, you shall take heed to offer to me in its appointed season. And you shall say to them, this is the fire offering which you shall offer to Yahweh, 2 yearling lambs without blemish, day by day as a continual burnt offering. So now you're going to get into the daily sacrifices. You shall offer 1 lamb in the morning, and you shall offer another lamb between the 2 evenings. Well, technically the 2 hours were the 3rd and 9th hour of daylight. That was the morning and the evening sacrifices. And 1/10 of the ephah of flour of food mixed with beaten oil, and 1/4 of hin. A continual burnt offering which was performed on Mount Sinai for a soothing fragrance, a fire offering for Yahweh. And a drink offering, 1/4 of a hin for the 1 lamb. Pour a drink offering of a strong drink to Yahweh in the sanctuary. And you shall offer the other lamb between the evenings, even as food offering of the morning. And as its drink offering, you shall offer it as a sacrifice made by fire, a soothing fragrance to Yahweh. And on the Sabbath day, 2 lambs, sons of a year, ones without blemish, and 2/10 parts of flour, food offering mixed with olive, and it is a drink offering. The burnt offering of a Sabbath on a Sabbath, besides the continual burning offering and its drink offering. In the beginning of your months, you shall bring near burnt offerings to Yahweh, 2 bulls, son of a herd, and 1 ram, 7 lambs, sons of a year, and ones without blemish, and 3/10 parts of flour, food offering mixed with oil, for the 1 bull, and the 2/10 of parts of flour as a food offering mixed with oil of 1 ram. So now they're getting into the sacrifices that are going to be taken part of the daily sacrifices and the offerings that need to be made. And he's going to go into every sacrifice and every day. And that's going to end up on chapter 28. And then we're going to get here into chapter 29, the last chapter of this week's Torah portion. And in chapter 29, it goes on to say, and in the 7th month, on the 1st of the month, you shall have a holy gathering. You shall not do any work or service. It shall be a blowing of trumpets for you. And now we could get into the Feast of Trumpets here and given these instructions. Again, what it is about is the instructions are being given to Israel of how they are to proceed into the promised land, and when they get into the promised land and what they are to be doing. So, and you shall prepare a burnt offering for a soothing fragrance to Yahweh, 1 bull, a son of a herd, 1 ram, 7 lambs, and sons of a year without blemish. Again, what they had when they had these appointed times was offerings to go along with it. We no longer have to make these offerings because there's no temple right now to do so. But we do have Yeshua Messiah, Him being our offering. That is not an excuse not to follow the instructions best we still could. That is even more of a reason, because we loved Him and because He offered Himself for us, to follow these instructions best we could. So people ask me, well, what instructions can we still keep from these guidelines and instructions here in the Torah? Well, we keep whatever we can. We can't keep the sacrificial burnt offerings, the daily offerings. There's no temple, and that's where they were to be brought. But we certainly can keep the idea of the offerings coming, with a repentant heart if we've sinned, or we can come with a forgiving heart, a fellowship offering, and so on. With our heart we can make this, knowing Yeshua is our sacrifice and our offering, and appreciating what Yeshua's blood did for us. And we can only realize that when we really look back at the scriptures and we see the significance of how much he did for us by looking at these daily offerings on a regular basis. Can never completely take away the person's sins and change your heart. But then we see one man, one Messiah, one Yeshua being able to do all that. And all this should be a reminder of what he came to fulfill. And now was all these sacrifices that were being made, they all had a significance meaning to them. And the appointed times are still applicable to us today. And we need to make sure that just because we can't make these sacrifices, we're not throwing away the appointed times that say these appointed times should be forever. So in chapter 29, we get more into the different offerings that are made. And in 39 of chapter 29, it says, verse 39, "You shall prepare these for Yahweh in your appointed seasons, apart from your vows and your free will offerings, your burnt offerings and your food offerings, and for your drink offerings, and for your peace offerings." And Moses spoke to the sons of Israel according to all that Yahweh had commanded. So there's two important things here. Number one is the offerings. We have to understand the offerings and the significance of them. And the only way you're going to do that is read the Bible from the beginning in Genesis, going all the way through. Then you will not only understand, but you get much more appreciation for what Messiah did for us. But in verse 40 here, it says, "And Moses spoke to the sons of Israel according to all that our Creator had commanded Moses." According to all of it. And in many other verses, it says Moses wrote down all of it. So there are some people that talk about an oral law or oral traditions. Well, there was nothing that Moses didn't write down. Now, did some of it get lost and some of us we don't have today? Very possible. But Moses wrote down everything. So the tradition of the oral law to explain these things is not from our Creator. It's from man trying to figure out what our Creator was saying. Moses wrote down every single thing our Creator told him. He said all. Moses spoke to all the sons of Israel according to all that Yahweh had commanded. And in many verses it says he wrote down all of them. He didn't just speak to them, but he wrote them all as well. And then this week's Torah portion ends off on chapter 30, verse 1. "And Moses spoke to the heads of the tribes of the sons of Israel, saying, This is the thing which Yahweh had commanded." And then he's going to get more into the instructions for the children, setting up or leaving this for Joshua to continue to take this on. It's like picture a big corporation, and you have the CEO who's been there from the beginning, but he's getting old. And he's going to hand it down to the next person. But before he does, he wants to make sure everything's in order and they understand what they have to do and must do. And he's grooming Joshua in the meantime for this position. And that's what's happening here. And those offerings are part of all of that. So the next Torah portion we're going to read is Torah portion 42. It's going to be Numbers 32 to verse Numbers 32:42. And that's in the next Torah portion. So if you have any comments or questions about this Torah portion, please post them below the video. Until then, everybody, have a great Shabbat next Shabbat. Thanks for watching, and Shalom, Shalom.
Come out of the world, oh my people, seek the truth, avoid the evil, learn Yahweh's ways, Torah Life Ministries, come out of the world.